Picture this. You're alone, not because no one is around you, but because the person who mattered most is suddenly unreachable. The room feels smaller than it used to. The silence feels heavier. You stare at your phone, not expecting a message, yet unable to put it down. You tell yourself you're fine. You tell yourself time will fix it. But deep down, you know something broke, and it didn't break loudly. It broke quietly while you were still trying. You remember how sure you were, how you believed effort meant security, how you thought showing up every day made you irreplaceable. You gave patience when it hurt. You stayed calm when you wanted to react. You sacrificed pieces of yourself because you thought that's what love required. And now you're here, wondering how something you protected so carefully slipped through your hands without a fight. No one prepares you for this moment. No one tells you that love doesn't collapse with a final argument. Sometimes it collapses with silence, with delayed replies, with energy that feels colder every day. You felt it before you understood it. The way her voice changed, the way her eyes stopped looking for you, the way you started explaining yourself more while she started caring less. You keep asking the same question, what did I do wrong? And that question eats at you because you did everything right, at least according to what you were taught. But here's the truth no one warned you about. Love is not controlled by effort alone. It's controlled by emotional chemistry, power balance, and instinct. Your brain bonds through sacrifice, through investment, through loyalty. Hers responds to tension, presence, and emotional strength. And when that balance shifts, feelings don't negotiate, they adapt. You tried to save it by giving more attention, more reassurance, more access to your emotions. You thought closeness would fix distance. But the harder you held on, the faster something slipped away. Not because you were weak, but because no one taught you that emotional control is strength, and overexposure is vulnerability without protection. Now you sit with the aftermath, the quiet nights, the unanswered thoughts, the slow realization that love without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. You weren't rejected because you weren't enough. You were rejected because you misunderstood how attraction survives. What I'm about to tell you is uncomfortable. It's not romantic, it's not gentle, but it's real. And if you don't understand it, you will repeat this pain again, with a different face, a different name, the same ending. This video is not here to comfort you. It's here to wake you up. Because once you see the psychology behind what happened, you will never love the same way again. And that's exactly the point. You're alone, but not just physically alone, emotionally displaced, like your own life moved forward without asking you. The room is quiet, yet your mind refuses to rest. You stare at nothing, replaying everything, the beginning, the warmth, the certainty, and then the slow, invisible unraveling. No explosion, no final argument, just distance, the kind that grows quietly while you're still trying to hold things together. And in that moment, you realize something terrifying. Love didn't end in chaos. It ended in silence. You were taught that love rewards effort, that if you stayed patient, loyal, emotionally available, things would stabilize. You believed showing vulnerability was strength. You believed consistency meant security. But no one told you that attraction doesn't respond to morality. It responds to emotional tension, novelty, and perceived value. Beneath the surface of romance, biology is always working. Dopamine fires when things feel uncertain. Familiarity dulls the signal, and when that chemistry fades, no amount of explaining can bring it back. She feels the shift before she understands it. She doesn't wake up deciding to pull away. Her nervous system does it for her. She scrolls through her phone late at night, absorbing attention like oxygen, not because she wants someone else, but because something inside her feels empty. Each notification gives her brain a small hit of dopamine, a brief reminder that she's wanted somewhere, by someone. She isn't cruel. She isn't cold. She's responding exactly how she's programmed to respond when emotional stimulation drops. You start sensing the tests, the pauses, the mixed signals, the silence that feels heavier than words. She stops explaining herself. You start explaining everything. You feel anxiety rising, and instead of pulling back, you lean in harder. You talk more. You reassure more. You give more access to your emotions, believing closeness will fix distance. But psychologically, it does the opposite. Your reactivity lowers your perceived value. Her detachment increases it. Not because she wants power, but because emotional imbalance always creates hierarchy. Every woman tests, not consciously, not maliciously. Her biology scans for emotional stability under pressure, and every man fails at least once because no one teaches him that restraint is strength. You begin to feel like you're losing ground, but you can't identify the rules of the game. You sit across from her in public spaces, cafes, cars, rooms filled with people, and yet the silence between you feels like judgment. Eye contact disappears first, touch becomes rare, and when desire leaves, respect quietly follows. There's a moment, quiet, humiliating, unforgettable, when you realize you're still present but no longer felt. You're loyal but replaceable, caring but predictable. That's when bitterness begins to form, not as anger, but as awareness. You understand that love alone does not protect men, sacrifice does not guarantee attraction, and emotional availability without boundaries becomes emotional submission. She walks away slowly, sometimes physically, sometimes emotionally. She doesn't look back, not because you meant nothing, but because familiarity replaced mystery, safety replaced polarity. Her brain adapted, yours attached. Men bond through sacrifice and investment, women bond through emotional stimulation and tension. This isn't a moral judgment, it's neurological wiring. Society doesn't tell you this because it sounds cruel, but cruelty has nothing to do with it. Reality does. You sit alone at night, head in your hands, replaying every decision, blaming yourself for not being enough. But the truth is harder. This wasn't a failure of character, it was a failure of understanding. You didn't lose because you were weak. You lost because you played by rules that don't exist. She laughs somewhere else now, or pretends to. Even alone, she performs happiness because emptiness is terrifying when faced directly. Validation becomes anesthesia. Attention becomes distraction. But distraction never heals, it only delays collapse. The more she consumes, the less she feels. The more you lose, the more you reflect. You walk empty streets at night. No messages, no closure, just thoughts looping endlessly. Pain forces men inward, it sharpens them, it builds discipline. Pain pushes women outward, it seeks relief, novelty, reassurance. Neither response is wrong, both are hardwired. She stands by a window, rain tracing lines down the glass, wondering why nothing feels deep anymore. You sit in a car at night, rain hitting the windshield, realizing that love without leverage becomes surrender. Phones glow, tears fall, both of you hurt, just in different directions. And here's the bitter truth, brother. Love is not enough. Effort is not enough. Good intentions do not override biology. Emotional availability without self-respect breeds quiet contempt. Attraction requires polarity. Respect requires boundaries. Desire requires restraint. The answer isn't hatred. It isn't manipulation. It isn't becoming cold for the sake of ego. It's emotional discipline, detachment with dignity. You stop chasing validation and start creating value. You become calm again, grounded, unreactive, not louder, stronger. You learn to sit with silence without needing to fill it. You learn that walking away is sometimes the highest form of self-respect. And one day you sit alone on a bench in the fog, not broken, not angry, but awake. You understand now. This wasn't rejection, it was initiation. This wasn't loss, it was exposure to truth. Once you see it, you can never unsee it. Before you leave this video, I want you to understand something. This wasn't made to make you angry, and it wasn't made to make you hate anyone. It was made to give you clarity. Pain feels unbearable when it's meaningless, but the moment pain teaches you something, it stops owning you. What happened to you was not random. It was not fate. It was not because you were unworthy. It happened because you loved without understanding the rules of human nature. You don't need revenge. You don't need closure. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. The strongest thing you can do now is become emotionally disciplined, calm, grounded, self-respecting. Let silence replace explanations. Let growth replace chasing. Let distance do what words never could. Remember this. Love should never cost you your dignity. Effort should never require self-betrayal. And attachment without self-control will always end in loss. Walk away with your head high, not hardened, not bitter, but aware. Because awareness is power, and power is peace. This chapter didn't break you, it initiated you. And once a man sees the truth, he never goes back to sleep. Stay strong.